I want to talk to you about culture, what is healthy and what is not healthy. Some people talk about risk culture, some people talk about a compliance culture, entrepreneurial culture, whatever. But let's just talk for a little bit about what is healthy and what is not healthy. What drives appropriate and desired behaviors within an organization. And I'm going to share with you 3 different companies where I was the last 2 as head of internal audit. The first one as a very junior, new, straight out of college accountant. And that was with Cooper Brothers, which became Coopers & Lybrand and is now PwC. The culture there was, I would call, very professional. Everything was by the book. Everything had to be done according to firm standards, according to auditing standards and accounting standards. And we had to do things in a certain way. It was a very English, almost class system, where those above you on the ladder for success were highly respected, had to be obeyed. And maybe if you were lucky, they were paternalistic and would look down on you with some level of sympathy and help you rise up. Whereas you would look up at them and, yes, sir, 3 bags full, sir. What do I need to do, sir, to rise up? Now, somehow that worked. The organization was able to deliver quality and effective, efficient audits of financial statements on a continuing basis. It was helped because they hired smart people with excellent education backgrounds. And then they developed them, and if they were not working out, they would get moved out. So it worked. Now later I joined, this was my first position as head of internal audit, I joined Tosco Corporation, and initially I spent all my time in their Northern California refinery. This is an oil refinery that produced gasoline and diesel and jet fuel, mostly for the wholesale market. And I found that the refinery there in Northern California was very interesting from a culture point of view. It was very much focused on the safety of everybody that lived in or around and worked within the refinery, both employees and a lot of contractors and sometimes vendors. So safety was paramount, and reliability of operations and equipment, reliability of the people performing the work was mandatory and absolutely essential, not only to production and performance, but also to safety. So there's a tremendous emphasis on that throughout the refinery. There were 3 subcultures, if you like. You had operations, who were responsible for running everything, and they were very much disciplined, and again, follow the book, follow the instructions. You had the engineering department, which I would call was like a white collar professional engineer kind of people, set of people, and they were responsible for understanding when the technology and the systems, the different machinery needed to be upgraded or replaced, or we were designing an additional piece of refining equipment to put in. They were responsible for all that design, and they felt themselves to be pretty much an elite group, and they looked down to a certain extent on the others, especially the blue-collar operation. The maintenance department were also engineers, some of them also professional engineers by certification, but they were the people that got their fingers dirty. They were in there doing the equipment maintenance and getting that work done. So they were not happy with the elitism of the engineering department, and there was frequent conflict and a lack of cooperation between them. I saw this as the auditor just by going out and talking to and listening to everybody, seeing what is going on. And I talked to the refinery manager about it. changes were made eventually. They made the right ones and moved people around to break down these silos and get everybody into a much more of a teamwork culture. And eventually everything was able to move forward and be more successful. The third organization that I want to talk about was Selectron. Now, this was a culture that was toxic in many ways. The CEO, who had been very effective and very successful, very customer focused, very entrepreneurial, very highly quality oriented, had lost the confidence of his direct management team. And eventually he lost his job. But in the meantime, he had delegated, empowered the different parts of the company, which is a global organization. And so there was a very weak corporate structure, and everything, the power was out in the field, was in the UK for Europe, was in Singapore and Malaysia for Asia. And so you've got these silly situations where corporate IT would correctly identify that we had such a mishmash of systems that it was very difficult to run the company as a whole. And they wanted to put in an enterprise-wide ERP and financial systems. So they identified a system called Barn as being, they felt, the best for the company. And they started putting it in operations within the United States. But the European operation said, we don't like that. We prefer to go with SAP. And they had enough power to resist corporate, and they went with SAP. So you've got one system in America, another set of systems in Europe. Asia looked at all of this and said, well, we don't think we want to change our systems at all. We're going to stay with this combination. So we had different systems in different parts of Asia. And it was very difficult to pull it all together. And the operation was really run not as a single company, but everyone was looking out for their own thing, their own benefit, their own performance. So we had this stupid situation where Guadalajara, Mexico operation was competing for this large contract with a Canadian telecom company. They were competing with our sister company in Shanghai, China. And they managed between them to drive the price of the contract down so that it was not going to be profitable. Stupid. One of the executives, a senior vice president no less, was involved in a major acquisition in New England, a company called Stream, which is a call center operation, which was really thriving, doing very, very well, and would fit nicely in with Selectron's other operations. After the acquisition, he was told he was going to run it, but his performance objectives and his compensation targets did not include anything relating to Stream. So he said, well, I'll pay attention to that when I need to pay attention to that. And he just let it go, and it went adrift, and it failed, but he was still getting paid. And this was the toxic culture. The indicators of a toxic culture were there. It's nothing to do with a risk culture. It was simply that the desired behaviors of the organization in terms of teamwork, shared objectives, shared information, working together to achieve the goals of the organization safely with the interests of the community were not being held. So my advice is focus on, does the culture of the organization, and there's subcultures all over the place, promote the desired and healthy behaviors of the organization. I hope this is useful to you. If you like this, please subscribe. Thanks.